Okay, let's get started. Again, hello, my name is Ku Lee. I'm the Targeted Outreach Director for the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation. We just go by the DFPI. Thank you for joining the webinar this afternoon. On this today's topic, we're going to be talking about how to protect yourself from romance scams. Let's jump right in. So, a little bit of a disclaimer. Um, for your cameras and microphones have been turned off for the duration of this webinar. If you do have any questions or comments you'd like to share, please feel free to put it into the Zoom's Q&A feature. I have a dedicated time at the very end to answer as many questions as I can. The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the presenter. They do not necessarily reflect the views and positions of the DFPI. This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. This is not legal or financial advice. For more information, you could visit our website, dfpi.ca.gov, and you could always email my team. I have a team that provides presentations all across California. We're also happy to share a copy of these slides or provide any other presentations to you and your community. To email us, our email address is outreach@dfpi.ca.gov. Okay, before we kind of jump right in, I do want to talk quickly about the DFPI. Who are we? What is our role? What do we do? The DFPI is California's financial regulator. Our purpose is to maintain a fair, healthy, and trusted financial marketplace for all Californians. We do this by regulating and overseeing a variety of financial services, products, and professionals. We also provide free presentations, workshops, webinars, seminars, all throughout California, again, in person and virtually. And we do this to inform and to protect consumers and to prevent them from falling prey to frauds and scams. For more information, we do have a dedicated section on our website where we publish news articles, consumer alerts, a list of all the events that we do. The link to that section of our website is dfpi.ca.gov/consumers. Okay. And I do want to talk really quickly about the different financial professionals and industries and companies that we license, regulate, and oversee. Here's a long list. I'm not going to go through them, although I will highlight a few of them. So things like state chartered banks and credit unions, broker dealer, investment advisors, payday lenders, debt collectors, student loan servicers. If you're having an issue with any one of those, companies, industries, professionals, please feel free to contact us, submit a complaint, and we will review it and try to help find a resolution for the issue. So with that, sorry, one more plug. I apologize before we jump right in. The DFPI offers free online financial education. All you have to do is register with email address, but then you'll have access to a number of different modules on topics such as budgeting, investing, retirement planning, paying for college, getting out of debt, building credit, estate planning. There's tons of different topics and modules in our free online financial education platform. Please feel free, and it's open to anyone and everyone to use. So please feel free to register and check that out. The link to that is dfpi.ca.gov/learn. Okay. So jumping right in, what is a romance scam? This definition actually comes from the FBI. In a confidence or romance scam, victims are lured into thinking that they are in a relationship with a friend or romantic partner. Then they are tricked into stealing or sending money, financial information, or their personal information to the criminal. They may also be deceived into laundering money, and we'll talk a little more about that. So here's some romance scam statistics from AARP. Actually, they just, by the way, many of these slides will have a reference link at the bottom, and I will be sharing these slides to everyone who registered for the webinar. So if you registered, look for a follow-up email. I'll have a copy of the slides. Also, a link to the webinar recording, which we'll publish on our YouTube channel. So this article was just published a couple of days ago from AARP. They published some statistics from a national survey that they did. In that national survey, it shows that many romance scams are affecting older adults at significant rates, such as nearly 1 in 10 adults over the age of 50 has experienced an online romantic approach that led to a request for money or encouragement to invest in cryptocurrency. 1 in 6, about 16% of those adults report that they or someone they knew has lost money to a romance scam. And dating apps, social media platforms, and messaging apps were where these scams started. I know those numbers kind of don't add up, right? 63%, 42%, 21%, but these actually overlap. If you look at the data that they did in their survey, sometimes individuals were contacted in multiple ways, right? Dating apps and social media platforms or messaging apps. So in more than half of these incidents, they were not reported, and for a number of different reasons, right? So maybe the individual felt ashamed, or they didn't know where to report it, or they just did not want to be marginal. They didn't want to feel like they were marginalizers, and they did not report it. And it's very important. It's one of the things that I advocate for a lot. Please report the scam, even if you didn't lose any money, but especially if you did lose money, because again, it helps not just us as a state department, but also local law enforcement and federal authorities to track these things, and try to protect it from happening to other people. So in their study, also about 45% of adults aged 50 and above say they do not feel knowledgeable about the tactics that scammers use. And so we'll be talking about some of those tactics here in this webinar. And hopefully you can share this webinar to others. And learn something as well. Okay, so how do romance scams work? This actually comes from the the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. It's notoriously simple, and that's why it can easily trick you, right? So first step, scammers contact you. The second step, they build trust with you, and this is kind of, it could be quick. It could take a long time, right? They may take weeks, months, years building that rapport and trust. And then the scammers, when they feel comfortable, they feel that they have a certain level of trust, that's when they make the ask, right? So they ask for money, they ask for information, they ask you to do things. And when I say do things, that's like launder money for them, right? So really 3 steps to it. The SEC says these are the 3 steps, but because it's so simple, it's hard to it's hard to diagnose, right? It's from when it's happening to you right in front of your face, it's very difficult to see because it just seems so simple, right? Scammers contact you, they build that trust, and then they make that ask. So one thing the SEC talks about is the long con, which is where they slowly build up and foster trust. And they might even suggest meeting in person, right? Try to build that legitimacy, but then they make excuses so that this never happens. I've heard incidences where they even buy plane tickets, or they plan to meet kind of halfway somewhere. So it's a long distance relationship, and then they say, yeah, let's meet somewhere together, right? But they never show up. And the other person that bought a plane ticket, they try to meet them at the airport or at some cafe somewhere, and it never happens. And of course, the scammer has all sorts of excuses that they weren't able to make it. And again, that might be a validation for the scammer to see how committed you are to their scam, right? The scammer will then at some point steer the conversation or relationship towards investment-related topics where they'll try to get you to invest or send money for them for a great opportunity, or to help them out in some instances, or even to get you to do things for them, right? The other thing that the SEC talks about is platonic relationship scams, right? Not all relationship, like romance scams or relationship scams, are romantic. Some scammers will try to become your best friend or a trusted confidant, right? They again it's about building that rapport to get you trusted, and again, they target individuals who may not have strong connections or support system with others, and that's for the scammers. They know that they can try to be your support system, right? And scammers often target individuals seeking companionship, support, or shared interest. This could be on social media platforms or online forums or even gaming sites, where they know that a particular profile of individuals usually like play certain games or use certain chat rooms, that kind of a thing. That's what they're looking for. So, talking about that, how do romance scammers find you? Scammers will target and contact their victims through social media. We talked about this. Dating apps, big one, just because it's really easy. Most people put a lot of their personal information on dating apps. And so scammers kind of have a good profile of who they're looking for. Messaging apps is another way, right? They might, if they find your contact information some way, and messaging apps is things like WhatsApp is a big one, notoriously, because there are lots of technical reasons, but the biggest reason why scammers use WhatsApp is it's really easy to create throwaway messaging accounts, right? It doesn't cost them anything. They just randomly create accounts, messaging accounts in WhatsApp and just contact you, and then they could ghost you without any repercussions, right? But there's all sorts of other messaging apps, right? So be aware of that. So there's also email messaging boards and websites. Again, these are ways that scammers will find you and target you. Also, the unsolicited wrong number message. I have a slide we're going to check out in here in a minute. But that's a very common one, and it's happened to me. I've seen it happen everywhere. They just randomly dial or send text messages to people's smartphones, and it's basically a phishing attempt. They're trying to get you to respond back, and then they're trying to build some kind of rapport, or they may throw things out there to try to figure out your profile, right? What are you interested in? What are you concerned about? Trying to, again, build that rapport and trust, and then they're going to make the ask sometime in between, right? Finally, search engines, local news, and media. A lot of information is made public, right? Or you can make a lot of information public, especially if you, and that leads us to our next one, which is be careful what information you share publicly. If you publish your social media profile publicly, scammers know all the information, right? They may know where you live, what high school you went to, what friends you have. And so they might pose as one of your friends, especially someone that might be a longtime acquaintance. And so they might, if on your social media profile you said you went to a certain high school, they may message you and say, hey, I went to this high school too. Do you remember me? Right? We had a class sometime. And when we talk about search engine, local news, and media, there have been stories where individuals, again, scammers are targeting those lonely individuals, maybe individuals who are vulnerable, especially if they've lost a loved one. If they see your information in local newspapers or the local news, they might use that information and, again, try to contact you and then somehow build a connection, right? So again, be careful what information you share out there publicly. We have actually a webinar that we're going to be publishing. Not publishing. We have a webinar that we're hosting next month. More details in the next next slides, where we're going to be talking about how to request to have your information deleted from data broker sites. So more information. Stay tuned. Let's talk about an example of a wrong number phishing attempt, right? So here's kind of how it starts, right? Scammers are just gonna send a random text message, right? Here it says, is dinner still at 7? You respond, who is this? And then the person says, the scammer says, it's Sarah from church. And of course, you don't know who that is. Again, they're just throwing things out there to see what might pique your interest. Sorry, wrong numbers. My reply. Oh, can you help me? Right? They start with that plea. I need someone that I can trust who is local, right? So you reply back. Well, what do you need? Like, I don't know who you are, but what might you need, right? And then here's where they're trying to pull your heartstrings, right? I'm overseas with Peace Corps and just need someone to talk to. So this is the beginning of a wrong number phishing attempt, a wrong number romance scam, and they're going to try to build that relationship. Maybe you don't care about the Peace Corps overseas, right? And so this could be a throwaway. But I'm just, again, just trying to show you how simple and how easy scammers are able to get individuals, especially individuals who are don't see this a lot, and also individuals who might be a little bit lonely, who don't have enough contact from their loved ones or other support system, and they just need someone like a pen pal, right? And that's what scammers are trying to fill that void, be that person there. Romance scams could lead to blackmail. The FBI warns that scammers may try to blackmail you after establishing a relationship. They may threaten to expose a relationship, right? Especially if you're already married or something, or maybe you're embarrassed about having an online relationship. They may try to expose that relationship to the people you know. They may try to share compromising photos that you might have shared, or your personal or financial information unless you pay them. So be very careful, again, what you share online to strangers, essentially. You should never share personal or financial information to anyone you don't physically, specifically know and have a strong relationship with. So let's talk about some warning signs and red flags. And by the way, I have 2 slides of this. There's a lot of different warning signs and red flags, but I will also say this is not all encompassing. In other words, there may be more warning signs and red flags out there. I just didn't create a whole comprehensive list. These are the most common ones listed by many different, as you can see these references below, the many different government agencies. So the first one is if you get an email or text message from a person or email address that you don't know or recognize. Another red flag is claims of living or working or traveling abroad. And again, they do that so that it's not very easy to meet up in person. They quickly profess love to you, right? Again, another huge big red flag. They send photos and videos that look too perfect or are very poor quality. And honestly, this is kind of a because of AI's ability to generate photos now. That's where it is. If the photo looks too perfect, that should send red flags. But also, if there's very poor quality, scammers may try to mask photos that they create or photos that they create in like Photoshop or something, using very poor quality, and they'll always use some kind of excuse like, "Oh, my phone doesn't have a great camera" or something like that. Honestly, just be very skeptical of photos or videos that are sent to you, because again, AI can now generate videos and photos pretty easily, and again, scammers could use excuses to basically say that, whatever, poor quality video, poor quality photo, or even audio, and again, try to make all those excuses. Inconsistencies in a person's story, right? Their backstory, such as changes in details or lack of information. We have attempts to isolate you from friends and family. That's always a big one. Again, what they're trying to do is be your strongest support system so that you rely on them and not relying on friends and family, right? Scammers will use people's real legitimate photos. What you want to do is use Google's reverse image search tool to check someone's image. And again, when Google lists out the different images, it will show where the photo is being used, right? Other social media profiles, even news articles like this. In this particular romance scam example, a 69-year-old retiree received a message from a man who claimed to be stationed overseas. She was eventually convinced to sell her 4-bedroom house, and she only realized she was being scammed when she was told by her financial advisor while she was trying to take out a car loan. So again, can be very devastating, these types of scams. And again, I apologize for being muted. I did not see that. And thank you for all the notices in the chat. We are recording this, so hopefully it caught my recording. Okay, here's an example of this is actually kind of a famous example of a romance scam, and where the scammer was using artificial intelligence to create photos, right? So this is called the Brad Pitt scam. You can search it online and get more details about it, but here's kind of the the quick notes. A French woman was conned out of a large sum of money by scammers posing as actor Brad Pitt. The scammers were using AI generated images. And as you could see, some of these images aren't bad, but other ones like are really bad, right? They're hard to convince. So these are actually the actual photos that the scammer had sent the woman. And again, the scammer was trying to get the woman to send money. They were posing as Brad Pitt, saying that he needed money for medical situation. And so be very careful out there, right? This was, I know, not very good, but again, using poor quality images. The scammers are, look at this black and white image. The scammers, again, are targeting individuals who don't have a very good, media literacy, if not technical literacy, technology literacy. And so they could fool them with these kinds of things. Okay, so here, this is actually statistics from the FBI's IC3, which is their Internet Crimes Complaint Center. In this report from 2024, because they're still compiling 2025 data, romance scams or confidence scams generated. I would say people lost more than almost nearly $700 million in those types of scams, right? And there are other different types of scams where people lose a lot more money, but this is number 5. And by the way, this is just reported, because people report these their losses and the number of scams to the FBI's Internet Crimes Complaint Center, and we know that relatively almost about 50% or more of these types of scams are not reported. So these numbers could actually be higher. Here's a by the way, comes from the Secret Service. Here's a warning from the Secret Service: don't become a money mule, right? To avoid being detected by law enforcement, criminals use money laundering techniques to conceal their identity, source, and destination of funds. So never share your bank account or other personal identifying information with others. Never open a joint account with someone other than close family. And in fact, if you continue to read some more of their more of their notices, they talk about individuals who were conned into opening up a joint account with someone, and then that someone ended up being could be criminals overseas, and they're putting money into that legitimate person's joint account and then moving it out, right? Again, to avoid being detected by law enforcement. And that person, essentially, the legitimate person who opened that joint account, essentially became a money mule. Never respond to an offer to earn a quick and easy money, right? And never agree to receive and send money on behalf of others, right? So the scammers might, again, in a romance scam, they might build that trust and say something like, oh, I need to send someone money, but because I'm overseas, I can't do it. Let me send the money to you, and then you can send it to my uncle, aunt, whoever it might be. And if you do that, then you're actually helping commit that crime, whatever that money might be moving. It might even be legitimate, right? It might even look legitimate, not be legitimate, but it might actually look legitimate, right? So they might transfer you something like $50,000, and they say, oh, you could keep 1,000 of it. I'm going to move the 49th. I'm going to have you send that 49,000 to this other person. Again, if you do that, even unwillingly, knowingly, you may become an accessory to that crime. So be very careful when people ask you to do these things. If you don't feel comfortable, definitely just say no, right? Okay, so I'm going to play this video. Hopefully it has audio. Let me know if it does not. Then I'll just restart the video and make sure it has audio. This video comes from the FBI. This is the FBI video.
My name is Glenda, and I'm 81 years old. In 2014, I met the love of my life online, and he told me that he was a U.S. citizen and was working in Nigeria. He asked me for money to help with his business and help leave Nigeria. Then my love had people send me electronics like cell phones so I could pawn them and send him the money. When I couldn't get the money that he wanted, He asked me to open personal and business bank accounts. Since 2015, bank employees, local police officers, and federal agents told me that my love was a scam and that I needed to stop or I could go to jail. I didn't listen to anyone else but my love, the love I've never seen nor spoken to. Now I don't have a choice of whom I'll listen to. On November the 2nd, 2021, I pled guilty to 2 federal felonies. I'll be listening to the judge now.
Yeah, so this video comes from the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Again, a warning about not becoming a money mule. Again, a romance scam that led to money laundering. So this warning comes from the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. If you wire money outside the United States or use crypto assets for an investment that turns out to be a scam, you will likely never see your money again. So it's basically a caution, whether you're using crypto or you're wiring money. Big red flags, right? What I like to tell everyone when I was buying my house is my escrow company called me and said, "Hey, we're ready for your down payment. Please wire us the money. Here's the number." And I did not feel comfortable with that. I knew that my escrow company was going to be calling me and that I needed to wire my large down payment for my house. But I don't feel comfortable just taking numbers off of a phone call. So I asked them, "Hey, where's your office?" And so they gave me an address. I walked over there with a cashier's check with my down payments. They gave me a receipt. So I did the transaction in person because that's a lot of money. And you don't want to do a transaction online or you through the phone, literally just transferring that money. So I prefer to do large transactions in person with a handshake and a receipt. But again, if you wire money outside the United States, wire money to individuals, especially using gift cards or cryptocurrencies, crypto assets, you will likely never see your money again. Okay, so big warning here, and it's always a big red flag when they start asking for that kind of transaction. Okay, so we talked a lot about what are romance scams, red flags to see, some examples of it. Let's talk about how you can protect yourself, right? So with the DFPI, we've developed these 6 layers of protection, right? And each layer is supposed to help filter out those things and also give you a layer of protection. So the first line defense, as I like to call it, do not respond to scammers. So ignore anyone who is contacting you that you don't know, right? Phone numbers you don't recognize, text messages you don't know who it's from, right? No matter how the scammer is trying to contact you, if you get an unknown number, let it go to voicemail. If it's important, they'll leave a message, right? They're going to be emailing you, again, messaging you in many different ways. Just ignore it. If it's important, they'll leave a message and you could do your research to check up on it. And that leads us to our second layer of protection, which is do your research, right? Look for the red flags, verify information by going to the original direct source. Don't call any numbers that are sent to you or left to you. Don't click on any links that are sent to you, right? Go directly to the source. If someone says this is your bank, please call this number or click on this link, don't do that. Go directly to your bank's website and call a number from there, or contact them through the bank's official website, not links that are sent to you. Check credentials. Again, we talked about going directly to the official source. If all else fails, get help, right? Ask an employee or a professional in person. The next layer of protection, right? Take your time. Ignore anyone who is threatening you or giving you a limited time opportunity. If they're telling you not to share information with others, big red flag there, right? Take your time. Do your due diligence, do your research. If someone's asking you for personal or financial information, ignore them, right? Go slow. Don't make any big financial decisions for at least 24 hours because that will give you enough time to slow down, look at all the red flags. Again, do your research. Layer 4, do not or limit what information you share, right? We talked about how important it is to limit what information you share on things like social media, on emails, on websites, but also things like phone apps, and online shopping sites, right? Reviews that you might actually leave on products. Scammers could look at this thing and see that, oh, you really like this particular product, right? And again, help build that profile for them. Check your privacy settings. Again, next month we're going to be hosting a webinar talking about data privacy, data brokers. And so check your privacy settings. Make sure your social media profile is set to private, right? If it's set to public, anyone could go browse your social media profile, steal photos of you, take information off of you. They could build a what do you call it, dossier of who you are and what you like, and they could use that again to leverage. It's called social engineering. They could use it to essentially persuade you, influence you, and try to do romance or a platonic relationship scam. Talk to someone you trust. It's so important. You are not alone. You should have some form of a support structure around you, right? Friends, family, community leaders, children over the age of 18, financial advisors, professionals. Talk to someone you trust. In fact, another couple slides where there's the ARP has a fraud watch network hotline, which you could call. We're going to talk about that. If you don't know, right, someone is telling you, I need money right now and you're my only hope and you need to send me money, talk to someone else, right? Get someone else to see those red flags that you might have missed. And then finally, stay vigilant, right? Layer 6, stay vigilant. Regularly check your financial accounts, your credit reports, delete any unused social media accounts or other accounts that you might have online. If you have old email accounts, delete them, because what's going to happen is it's not a matter of if, it's more a matter of when will these social media sites, will these email accounts get hacked. And if you just have, let's say, an old email account that you've abandoned, you don't use it anymore, but you've never closed it down, what will happen is, again, it's not a matter of if, it's more a matter of when will that email service become a victim of a data breach, and suddenly all your emails are out there, all your old emails, which might have tax returns, personal information, login informations, right? So be very, very careful about that. If you have old email accounts, social media accounts, streaming accounts you don't use anymore, you have the right to go to that platform and ask them to delete your account and all data associated with that account. We'll talk more about that, especially in next month's webinar. So be sure to register for it. We'll talk about that in a minute. Never send money or gifts to a person you haven't met in person. Never open a bank account or start a business on behalf of someone else. Again, big red flags. You lose a lot of control when you do that, right? You're giving them access to not just your life, but also your financial well-being. And always, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Okay. One more plug here again. Don't forget to report the incident, right? Start out reporting it to local authorities or your district attorney's office. You would be surprised what your local authorities are actually working on. Because this is the thing, scammers don't just target individuals. They actually are targeting communities and groups of people, and somehow they got your information. Sometimes it could be through mail theft, right? So someone stole your mail, they stole the mail of everyone in your neighborhood, and now they have your mail, your neighbor's mail, your personal information, and they're doing identity theft or something like that. And so your local authorities might actually be conducting an investigation, when you report it to your local authorities, it kind of helps their investigation, helps them triangulate where this originated from, who needs to be protected, who might be a victim, and then of course how they can protect others as well, and of course finding the perpetrator, right? Then you have state authorities like us, right? The DFPI, you have the DCA, which is the Department of Consumer Affairs, and the Attorney General's office, and then of course our federal authorities, which is the FBI. You can go to their website to submit your report there. It's ic3.gov. That's their Internet Crimes Complaint Center. The CFPB, the SEC, and the FTC has all sorts of places where you can continue to submit your reports of scams and other things, right? Romance, investment scams, that kind of thing. The big one here is the FTC's report fraud website. Excellent website. It's a great place where, by the way, our agency, as many other agencies, connect our databases. So reportfraud.ftc.gov, great place for you to report your fraud at a broader spectrum. Okay. And so, what do you do if you think you've been caught in a romance scam? Step one, stop communicating with a person immediately, right? If you start getting those red flags, if your spider sense is going off, stop communicating with them, because what they're going to do, they have their hooks into you and they're just going to dig deeper, right? They're going to try to use any kind of leverage or angle to try to keep you hooked in, and so that you can't leave. You want to just stop communicating with them, right? Ghost them right off. Don't send any more money to them, no matter what they say. Let's say you've already given them $10,000 and they promise that if you send them another 1,000, they could get your 10,000 back to you. Don't do it, right? That is sunk cost fallacy. You're going to throw good money after bad, and you just continue to lose money. Talk to someone you trust. Very, very important here, right? Do your friends and family say they're concerned about your new love interest or a relationship or business you've created with someone you don't know, right? These individuals around you, even professionals, right? Financial advisors, on the Fraud Watch network hotline, they might be able to point out the red flags that you miss, right? Do your research, right? Collect more information, verify sources, get more information about who this person is, and look back at all the conversations that you might have had, right? Start putting things together, because not only do you want to collect as much evidence as possible of what might have happened to you, but you might actually start seeing all the different red flags that you missed before, right? When you're starting to collect all this information and verify sources. Again, we talked about this, doing a reverse image search of the person's profile picture. And then what you want to do is notify the website, social media platform, or etc., that the scammer is using, right? So whether it is a messaging platform, whether it all started on a social media platform, contact them and say, hey, I was scammed by this particular person. Because what will happen is what should happen is the social media platform will do an investigation. If they find out that there's a lot of shady activity happening, they'll shut down that profile. Hopefully it'll stop other scams from happening. And especially if people are already sending money to that person as well, right? And then, of course, you want to report this scam to local law enforcement. Again, we talked about the FTC's reportfraud.ftc.gov website, and then get help, right? And this is where I love to promote AARP's Fraud Watch helpline, and it's open. They have regular hours, but you could call them. Anyone could call them and just ask, hey, and it doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter if you're the victim or if you're not. You could call them, you could talk to them and tell them your situation. And what they'll do is they'll kind of point out the red flags that you might be missing, right? And give you some action items that you could take to, again, if you feel like you're in a scam, to recover and get out. Or if you don't know if you're in a scam, they'll, again, be able to point those red flags out there and help you get caution. So ARP Fraud Watch Helpline, excellent place to go and get help. Okay, so we're getting close to the end. I will say again, a reminder, please feel free to submit your questions into the Zoom's Q&A feature. I will answer as many as I can at the very end. So how to help someone who is being scammed? And I get this question a lot when I do workshops, when I do webinars. Very oftentimes, people will even just call me. They'll take my business card and call me and say, hey, I have a family member, I have a parent who is being scammed. How can I help them? So here's a lot of different sources. And I did a ton of different research and just kind of compiled it into one slide for you, right? First thing you want to do is you want to lead with empathy, right? Provide emotional support. If you try to, and I've had this, I've done this and I've experienced it. If you try to start out blaming someone or trying to guilt them, they're going to double down. They're going to double down and build these walls that it's very hard to break through. So first thing you want to do is just lead with empathy, right? Provide that emotional support. Let them tell their story, right? Empower them to discover the scam on their own, right? Point out the red flags, not necessarily like, throwing up the red flag, but just simply say, hey, what do you think about this red flag, right? Do you think this is odd that the person doesn't want to meet you, or the last 3 times you guys scheduled to meet in person, it just didn't work out. Like, does that not feel like a red flag? Like, let them discover the scam on their own. Again, it's that idea of inception, right? Putting an idea into their head and hopefully let it grow. Take steps to address the underlying vulnerabilities, such as loneliness or financial stress, right? There's a reason why this particular person is trying to develop a relationship online for someone they don't know. Again, it could be loneliness. It could be, looking for some kind of financial opportunity of some sort, right? Be there to help them and help address those things. Document the scam and report to authorities, right? If you can't convince the person, at least gather as much evidence as you can. Say things like, hey, can you forward me that email? I just want to look at it, right? Or, hey, who's this person? I know you're building an online relationship with. Send me their profile. I just want to look at them, right? And let me join a chat with them, right? So be a part of that conversation, document the scam, and then report it to authorities, because you might actually be able to have the authorities involved while the romance scam or scam is going on, and then hopefully catch that person in the act. Help with practical steps like changing passwords. Freezing credit is a really, really good one, and monitoring financial accounts. And what I mean by freezing credit, if you don't know, freezing credit's free. It's actually really easy to do. You do have to go to all 3 credit bureaus, right? TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. You have to go to each one, claim your profile and credit account, and then you could freeze your account. You freeze your credit. When you freeze your credit, you can still use your credit card, debit cards like normal, no problem. But no one, not even you, will be able to open up new lines of credit. You won't be able to open up new loans, credit cards, that kind of thing, without unfreezing your credit, right? So instead of saying, hey, I think you're in a scam of some sort, we need to freeze your credit, just say, hey, I think it's a really good idea to freeze your credit. I'm doing it myself. Let's do it for you too. It's a great way to protect from identity theft, and just keep it outside of the whole relationship romance scam thing. That way you could help, again, protect that person, especially if they end up giving out their personal information to the scammer. The scammer will not be able to open up accounts, credit cards, loans in their name unless they unfreeze that credit, right? So it's an additional step to help your loved ones. And of course, look out for money recovery scams where people scammers claim to be able to get stolen back money, right? And again, this is that sunk cost fallacy. Believe it or not, it's quite common when a scammer ghosts you, right? So the person is stuck in a romance scam. They've given out $50,000 of their money, and then they realize they're in a scam, and then they stop communication. They report the crime, and then what happens is the scammers will contact them again, pretending to be law enforcement or even a quote unquote agency that can recover their money again if they contract with them, if they pay them a certain amount of money, and that is not realistic at all. So look out for those money recovery scams, and again, those scammers know that after scamming this person out of $50,000, $100,000, they know that person very well. They've built a profile, they've built a dossier, they know all the different things that make that person vulnerable, and they're going to use that again to try to get them to quote unquote recover the money. It's just not going to happen. It's going to be more money thrown away to the scammers. Okay, Q&A time. Again, big thank you for letting me know that I was muted, and I apologize for that. Zoom crashed. And then as soon as I got back in, and auto muted me for some reason. But thank you for sticking around. First question. Wish you would promote the National Elder Fraud Hotline as well, run by the U.S. Department of Justice, basically. Also, IC3 is internet crime, not crimes, sorry. Yeah, thank you for the correction. Sometimes I talk really, really fast and I don't get things particularly correct. But yes, IC3 is the Internet Crime Complaint Center, not Crimes Complaint Center. Well, my apologies. But yes, National Elder Fraud Hotline is good. I did not know that specifically. ARP California is a great partner of ours, and we work with them on a lot of different things. They informed us about their hotline, and I think it's amazing. But yes, check out the National Elder Fraud hotline run by the US DOJ. Thank you for that. Okay. Next question. Has DFPI ever considered funding California state PSAs, public service announcements, that focus on consumer protections, especially scams? So, short answer is yes. Specifically, the DFPI, we've talked about it quite a lot. The problem is funding. If you don't know, California is a bit of a deficit, and I would love to create public service announcements and just blanket the airwaves. You talk about radio waves, you talk about social media, you're talking about broadcast, and 90-second, 60-second, 30-second commercials where essentially we're saying, hey, look out for these red flags, right? Do this to protect yourself from scams because knowledge is power. It's so important. I would love to do it. We just don't have the money. California does not have the money, and anyone ever given us a grant to do it, I would love to do it. And I would love to partner with local, TV stations to do this. Right? If they'd have the willingness to help us produce these commercials, I would do it. I'd do it any day of the week. So great suggestion, and I love it. Thank you so much for that. Any other questions? FBI does their own public service announcements. Just check out their website, Facebook website. Yes, the FBI is really good, by the way. If you go to their website, they have a lot, and just like that video that we watched, really great, well produced, and it's a real situation. It's not an actor of some sort. And so the point being is, many agencies out there create their own video content, and they publish it on their websites. We do this. This only costs us time, and I love to do it. Webinars, and we publish this on our YouTube channel. You could always go check out our YouTube channel where we publish a lot of these financial education as well as fraud awareness, scam awareness presentations. But yes, FBI has a lot of great content on their website. So does like the Secret Service. They have a couple of great ones talking about money laundering, not being a money mule. And I know the CFPB has some content. The SEC. If you ever go to their investor.gov website, it's amazing. It's got lots of great stuff. But yeah, thank you so much. Great. Thank you for the suggestion. Any other questions? I know we're coming up to the hour. If not, I do want to quickly plug next month's webinar. So next month, March 4th at 1 p.m., we're partnering with, by the way, next month. It's the beginning of the week. The first week of March is National Consumer Protection Week. Celebrating that, we are hosting our webinar about protecting yourself from data brokers and data breaches. We are partnering with one of our sister agencies. It's the California Privacy Protection Agency, CPPA. California Privacy Protection Agency, and I love them. And one of their specialists, Bryce, is going to be joining us. They're going to be talking about their new tool known as Drop, their data. I'm going to forget the acronym here. Their data protection opt-out tool. I'm totally going to butcher that. I'm sorry, Bryce. But basically, they're going to talk about their new tool, which is going to help you opt out of data brokers and their databases. And we're going to talk about data breaches, red flags, what to look for, what to do if you are given a notice about data breach, right? So yes, great webinar. Again, next month. Be sure to register for that. It's a long link right there. I apologize. But I will be sending out the slides, which you can click on that link, and then the follow-up email, I'll make sure to have this link as well. You click on it, register for a webinar just like this. And again, we're going to be talking about how to protect yourself from data brokers, data breaches. We're also going to be talking about what can happen if you don't protect yourself from data brokers and data breaches, mostly identity theft, by the way. And then again, please, a reminder, please subscribe to the DFPI's newsletter if you haven't. I'm pretty sure that many of you seen the letter or joined because you saw the notice in our newsletter. We also have our YouTube channel, just like I was saying. This is where we'll be publishing this video and many other fraud awareness as well as financial education webinars. That's where we publish it. Check us out. It's youtube.com/CADFPI. Subscribe to us. With that, if there are one more check on the questions. Yeah, with that, I want to say thank you so much for being here, for surviving through the technical difficulties, for the questions as you submitted, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you. I'll see you again, and please take care of yourself and each other. Goodbye.